Good to have everybody here this morning. And did I ever do BAM with you all? I can't remember whether I've done BAM with you all or not. No? From any of the classes I've had you in? BAM? B-A-M? No? Did you ever do BAM? All right. Well, since nobody's like, yeah, Prof. Crook, we don't remember that. If I did, we forgot. It's one of my favorite things to do is to BAM. And yeah. So, you know, some people say just do it. Just BAM it. I know. It doesn't sound very good, does it? All right. So you look at the word BAM, or the acronym BAM. I want to take today just to introduce it, and then probably the next couple little devotional times we're just going to stay with the BAM thing. And this is what BAM is for. Okay, first of all, have you ever watched Batman 60s show? You know, when they do, you know, Batman and Robin get in a fight with the Joker or whatever, and you go, pow, bam, and they have these crazy little... Huh? Adam West. Yeah, with Adam West, yes. Last year. But anyway, it just, when I think of BAM, I think of that old Batman show. Well, guys, what I want you all to do in the classroom is to just BAM it, okay? And, you know, you had the Haim Ganot quote on this sleeve. On this, I want you to put BAM it for your tattoo, okay? And, of course, people will ask, you know, when you wore, what was those old plastic braces everybody used to wear back about 7 or 8 years ago? Well, what would Jesus do? The WWJD. Well, maybe we could have one that said BAM it on it. And people would ask, right? And they would think, oh my gosh, that's terrible, that's offensive. No, it's not, because this is what BAM it means. All right? Hey, Allie. And BAM it means this. B stands for believe. Okay? Anything you do in your life, you've got to believe in it before you actually can put yourself into it. For those of you that missed Tinson's recital last night, and some of you in this room saw it, and you were at Tinson's recital last night, he had to believe in himself in order to take it home like you did last night with, you did the whole recital. Vocal and instrumental, you know. And I'm going to talk him into getting his violin one of these. If he doesn't do it today, I want him to bring it. I want him to play one of his recital pieces for us, okay? It will be like serenaded in the room. But he has to believe. He believed. And you know what else? Other people had to believe in him too. To say, hey, I recognize that talent. Has anybody said to you, you know what? You could be a star swimmer someday. You've got that drive. You've got that, whatever it takes to be a swimmer. Sometimes it's a certain body type or whatever. And what goes with that belief comes that determination that's somewhere in your DNA to do that. Me, to get in the pool at 5 o'clock in the morning? I don't think so. But it's that. We could go around the room, every one of you. But in this room, for this class, for your profession as a teacher, the most important thing you have to do is you got to believe in yourself. Because if you don't believe in yourself as a teacher, remember what Jesus said? You know, you got to love yourself. And you know, say, oh, I love myself. No, it's like you got to believe in yourself. To believe in that you can do what God has called you to do. And if you don't, have you ever been up in front of somebody, or you had a nightmare about being up in front of somebody, and it's like, then it just sort of all fell apart? And it's like people trampled you and made fun of you and hissed and booed, and it's like, oh, no, get down. Oh, Tinson, you're terrible. Go away, get off the stage. Boo, worst recital ever. Go. Yeah, no. But he may have had that nightmare. It's like, no, it's not going to happen. But see, he believed. And Christ calls us to believe. Christ calls us to believe in ourselves, because before we can do anything, we have to believe that there is something going on. And that sort of takes the head stuff connected to the heart stuff, okay, for you to believe. So if I went around this table this morning and said, hey, What do you believe? Tell me one thing you believe in this morning. Don't say it out loud, but just think about it. What do you believe in? What do you believe as a teacher? What do you believe? Do you believe that you're going to get Teacher of the Year one year at your school? You know, I think you should have high goals. Look at UK. UK was picked what? 5th in the SEC. And Saturday they're playing for the championship of the East. Whoever, if Georgia or whoever wins. They're 12-point underdogs. I bet you David was lower than 12-point underdogs when he faced Goliath. You know? Now, and you may say, I'm never going to be that awesome teacher. Yeah, you're going to be that awesome teacher. You got to believe in yourself. Look at yourself in the mirror in the morning and say, you are the most awesome teacher in the whole wide world. I don't think that's weird to do that. You got to get yourself psyched to do those things that God calls you to do. So, I want you to believe. And if there's any parcel of this, see, when you read Harry Wong, when you read Ron Clark, when you read some of these other things that we're going to be reading in here, when you listen to Yolanda Schroyer, after student teaching, she was ready to throw it all in. But she believed. What got her to the belief? Yeah, Harry Wong's book and some other things, but she had to have that in her gut to do that. So, belief. Now, the next two, A is act, that we'll talk about the next time we're together. And then M is to monitor what you do. Okay? Monitor is a huge part in teaching. So, that's what BAM stands for. So when I tell you to BAM it, I want you to believe, I want you to act on your belief, and then I want you to monitor it. Make sure you're doing what you should be doing. So, BAM. So anytime I say, hey, Carissa, BAM it! Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Okay? And I didn't say the bad word, but one of the bad words. But no, I want you to BAM it. You can BAM it on the recital stage. You can BAM it in the pool. You can BAM it whatever you want to do. I want you to BAM it when you teach. I want you to do that for yourself, more importantly for Christ, and for what you've called to be as a teacher. So, anyway, think about BAM. Let's pray. Father, thank you so much for today. I ask that you will be with us this morning as we work through the things that you want us to do today. And as we continue to grow and learn and understand, Father, just give us all that foundation, that belief system that we can build on, as we already have started building a belief system. Father, just go before us in everything that we do. We love you. I ask that you will be the ones that are out in schools this morning. Pray for these who will be going out this afternoon and getting these clinical hours in. And Father, as they touch the lives of kids and of the peers that they're with, the teachers in the buildings, just help them to always be a beacon of light for you. We love you. Thank you. And I just pray for protection on kids tonight as they're out and about on the streets trick-or-treating. Just think of that's a scary but fun time. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Trick-or-treating's tonight, by the way, so if you're planning on, dressing up, they moved it from Halloween. Everybody know that? Because of this big storm that's supposed to come in and blow 50-mile-an-hour winds and rain and all that. So everybody in the area they've moved trick-or-treat to tonight. So if you see little trick-or-treaters out, if you're driving around, just watch out for them. Okay? All right. I'd like you to get out a sheet of paper, please. And I want to show you your entrance slip for today. And I'm going to make this a cooperative experience but I want everybody to write with your own papers, but will give you the opportunities to talk with your table buddies about this. I want you to answer these 3 questions. You do not need to rewrite these questions, okay? We're only going to spend a few minutes on this. For those of you watching the recording, I will be happy to send this entrance so you can see it, since you actually can't see. Well, you probably can see a little bit, but probably not as well as you need to. So the question one is, what was the biggest lesson that you took away from the DVD presentation? Okay? And then you can talk with your table. If you could ask Yolanda Royer one question about classroom management, what would it be? And then this goes back on your name's little paper the other day. But what's your biggest question about classroom management that you would like to have answered in our class? And you just want to just rewrite one that you did on the other paper. By the way, what I'm going to do, I'm going to type those up and let you see everybody's expectations and everybody's questions, so we can work and grow on that together. But anyway, spend about the next 5 minutes doing these 3 questions on your own paper, but you can talk with your table if you want to have any discussions and reminders about that. Okay? Go. Take about 2 more minutes, please. And then we'll talk about these a little bit. I want to collect these mostly just because for number 3. So make sure you've reiterated yourself for number 3. By the way, Keith is in charge of break today, so.
I take bribes.
Bless you. Okay. Quite have it done. You can just keep writing. What I'd like you to do, though, now is, since I didn't hear a ton of talking with each other as you guys were doing that, I'd like you to just around and share, and just number one now, okay? Share with each other what your biggest takeaway was from the Schroyer DVD. Okay, would you do that? Take about 2 minutes, just go around your table real quick, and then I want to hear a few of them, okay? Go.
The school's little concepts like this.
All right. One person here. Which one do you all think had a good thought here? You don't need to vote on somebody to talk, but I just want to hear one person from this table, please.
We talked about several, but one of them that we all kind of really thought was really key was like set your expectations for it so that there's no question on how it should be done. Like even if you think they know how to do it, like if you set an expectation for it, then there's no reason that they shouldn't follow it or do it how you want it to be done.
Okay, but the important thing is to communicate that expectation,
Yeah.
because if we don't know the expectation, how do we know how to respond with that? Tomorrow is one of the craziest days ever in schools. It's called Halloween. Teachers, if you don't share your expectations about how you want your behavior to be at your school on Halloween, to utter destruction. Okay? You've got to set those expectations. First big question is, what's the school expect? Is the school allowing kids to dress up? Are you supposed to dress up? And if you dress up, what is the sort of expectation for that dress? You know, you got to think about that. You know, is Drew is going to come in with his little toga on as Julius Caesar? You know? I don't know. But if that would be the expectation for that, you know, he might want to be in character. A lot of schools have this as a book character day. Sort of get around the whole scary, witchy, you know, because some schools in more conservative areas won't touch, you know, they won't even allow pumpkins with jack-o'-lantern faces on them, even in some public schools. But others go, you know, so where's where? You know, what are you going to do? You're going to have dried blood dripped all over your floor? You know, it's like, you know, it's, yeah. What are you going to do? You know, you got to lay out those expectations, because I guarantee you some kid's going to push it to the limit. Okay? And what do you do in a classroom? I'm sorry, I got to talk elementary here for 1 minute. What do you do when everybody's dressed up and then the kid who doesn't have enough money for anything comes in or maybe forgot the costume? Teachers, have a couple costumes tucked away in your bag, because you're going to pull that kid apart and say, hey, here, you're going to be Spider-Man today, and you're going to be the most awesome Spider-Man in the whole wide world. Rather than him going through the whole day feeling like, you know. Always think about that, teachers. Always think about that with that. Okay, so expectations, so important. How about this group? What did y'all talk about? Well, what's another one?
We talked about two different things. One is like the importance of documentation, just to keep the teacher and students accountable
Yeah.
for their behavior, their actions
Okay.
in the classroom.
I'm going to have you stay with that one. And if nobody else says your second one, you can come back and share your second one for me, okay? But yeah, the D word is really important, isn't it? Document, document, document. And she learned that, and she had some procedures. One of the assignments in this classroom is called behavior reports. And we're going to adjust it a little bit. And here's what I want you to do. When you go into your schools, you can even do this if you're going in this afternoon. I want you to find out what is the official documentation in your school. Like if a kid does something, you have to write them up. You know what I mean by that? You know, usually it means a trip to the office or a trip to maybe in-school suspension room. It depends on your different things. When we took last week, I took the elementary kids to Dunbar, and we went by the in-school suspensions room. And we walked in there, half the kids were asleep. Now, is that a way to be in-school suspension? You know, I can take you to an elementary school in Fayette County that has this room, and all that's in it is just padded walls. When a kid goes berserk, they just put the kid in that room, sort of as a cool-down room, so he won't hurt himself. Okay? So, how are you supposed to document all that? Because if somebody comes back and says, okay, Krissa, tell me what happened on that day. I still have a little stack of documentation of some very severe cases I had as a teacher and as a principal that I still keep. You never know when somebody's going to come back and sort of stir the pot back again. So keep yourself documented in what you do. That's huge, huge, important. Parent-teacher conferences, you don't go into a parent-teacher conference and just sit there and say, hey, let's talk about your kid. No, you're going to have some documentation there to back it up, because parents may not believe you. Now, you don't come saying, no, I'm going to prove to you that your kid's stupid. No, we're not going to say that. But if a parent questions, oh, my little Susie would never do that. Well, you know, Mrs. Smith, is this your daughter's handwriting? This is something that she did. And then she's like, oh, she's in shock, you know, from that. So just document. Excellent one, yeah. See, we could just watch this DVD and call the class over, right? No, we're not going to do that. Okay, how about something here? We still got a couple big takeaways from Yolanda here.
Just having those procedures.
Well, wait, I'm sorry. Well, what word did you say? Procedures. What are procedures?
Like how to label their papers or what to do when their work is done. She had all those set up in place so that if they did any of those, it was all in order.
Yeah. And what's important, and this is one of the big things, and so help me if you don't remember this by the end of this class, I'm not going to speak to you your entire life. Okay? So, you may choose to do that, but no, but I'm serious. This is the most important thing, in my view, about getting kids to know what the expectations are. You got to teach them. You got to teach them the procedures. And there's a page, don't quote me on the page, but it's like 88 or 89 in the Wong book that lists like 88 different procedures that you need to teach your kids. You know, Ron Clark has his 55 rules, or Harry Wong has all these procedures. Now, you're going to teach all those procedures the first day of school? Absolutely not. But you're going to teach the most critical ones. Like you're going to teach your kids, Drew, what's something that's really, really important to you when those kids walk in social studies, and we'll say middle school, what's something that like day one, you're going to want them to do it your way or they're going to be out of your classroom? What's an absolute for you?
I think anything involving like respect or like ways to address people when they're talking.
Okay, so let's say that one of your procedures is that when you talk, you want your child or your kid, your guy or girl in your classroom, they're going to stand up, push their chair, and they're going to stand next to their desk. Now, I'm not saying you're going to make them do that, okay? But I know some schools that do that. I know some public schools that have kids do that. And you're going to have to teach them that procedure to do that. And if they don't do that, they're not recognized, you know? So that's like an absolute for you. Andrew, what's an absolute for you in your gym?
Responding to like the whistle.
Ah, okay. So when you blow the whistle, you may have a whole whistle code. You may have a boop and a boop boop and a boop boop boop. You know, I don't know. You may have all these different whistle codes. And you're going to teach those kids every single one of those codes and what they do. One of them may be get in your squad. One of them may be, you know, stop and freeze wherever you are. So you've got those codes, just those procedures. Teachers, you got to get in your brain, and I promise you on the first test, you're going to pick a procedure, and then you're going to go through this 5-step method of teaching them those procedures that I will teach you here. Harry Wong has a 3-step. I like the 5-step, personally, and you'll see why when we get to that point. Okay, so we have expectations, we have documentation, we have procedures. Anything else? What else? Did you guys talk about anything else as far as takeaway? Yes?
So like, I know that, I can forget what you talked about, like, motivating the students.
I talked about like establishing a relationship with the student.
Oh, the R word. Relationship. Yes. Thank you. I didn't mean to cut you off. But that is so cool. You know, relationship. It's so important to establish those relationships. When you think of someone that you really admire, a teacher that you had in elementary school or middle school or high school, that you probably would have done anything for that teacher because you admired them so much. Tension, did you have somebody like that? Do you mind sharing who it was?
One of my choir teachers.
One of your choir teachers. Middle school, high school? High school? I had my choir teacher in high school to this day. I saw him on Facebook 2 days ago. I said, hey, there's Mr. L. His last name was Lotzenheiser. So we all called him Mr. L. And jokingly, we all called him, this is appropriate for Halloween, Pumpkinhead. Because he had this huge big head, and it was bald. But it was an endearing term. I mean, it could have been taken Pumpkinhead. I mean, you know what? He loved it because it was a relationship that we built with him. Now, I'm not telling you to go around calling somebody Pumpkinhead, okay? Or let somebody call you. But for him, it worked. For him, it worked. And, you know, we had these little niches like that. What was so amazing about your choir teacher, Tenson?
He knew every student's name.
Okay.
He greeted them.
Okay. All right.
He connected them like to each other. He connected us with each other and connected to us in a way like he would attend our activities,
Ah.
like if he knew us
Ah.
personally. Like, I felt it.
So you saw him.
Yeah.
So you would think a lot more of me if I had gone to your recital last night. Bad, Prof. Crook. But you knew I would have been there if it hadn't been for, I had to go to church. Those of you who are Methodists, we had our charge conference last night. And since I'm the choir director and worship leader, I had the like opening song, closing song. It's like, wonder what Tenson's doing now. You know, it's kind of a thing. So I really wanted to be there last night. So, but you're right. It's showing up and being there. And being there like, Allie, like if you have this kid that really is squirrely in your class and he loves soccer, and if you end up, which is a real, almost a sacrifice for you on a Saturday morning to go out and sit in 40-degree temperature and watch this kid play soccer, that's going to be, oh, there's my teacher over there. Wow. Hi. You know, or Monday morning you say, that was so cool. I loved when you did the goalie, and I love when you dove, you know, and hit your head on the goalpost, or, you know, whatever it was. And he'll just, and yeah, that's what builds relationships. That's what builds relationships with kids. in schools. So, guys, even to this point now, you guys got classrooms right now. Do it. Bam it. Go. Do that. All right. Cool. Did we say your other one?
We just kind of talked about the consistency.
Yeah, the consistency thing.
Procedures and
Yeah.
guidelines, because it's
Yeah.
really good to talk about on the first day of school and not go back to it.
Yeah. Was it the perfect little girl who came in tardy, and she still got, I mean, the hammer fell on her, just like it would fall on anybody else, right? Yeah. And it's a great DVD, and I'm anxious to watch the new one if is equal. But I'm glad sort of we still had this one for this class, because I think she has a lot of good things to say with that. I'll look at the questions that you're going to ask. I don't want to spend any more time on this, and then you're also your biggest question with that. Okay, so some of the things that I want to accomplish today, let me share with you. I want to develop the questions for your teacher interview. I want to go over in detail the code of conduct and the handbook analysis assignment. And then I want to finish up that PowerPoint. I've got a couple more videos to show you from the, expectations from the movies to do. And then we've got a second PowerPoint that we can get into if we have time. So that's my goal for today. On Thursday, we do have meet Thursday, same time, same station, not same time, regular time on Thursday. I want to go over and assign groups for your group presentations and pick out the theorists so you can be working on that too, because before we know it, these 10 times are going to be gone. And so I want to get a lot of that preliminary stuff out of the way in order to do all that. So let's get rid of this. And I want to finish up. Remember we had the discussion about the whole idea about classroom management versus discipline. I want to continue that discussion, and this is a very, very short, it's not going to take very long to finish up this PowerPoint unless I start talking a lot, which they, oh yeah, Crook, that's what you always do. But remember we had the words proactive, and what was the other word that went with the opposite of proactive would be what? Reactive. Those are really critical things to remember. If you can remember those and just every morning tell yourself, I'm going to be more proactive today than reactive. I'm going to be more proactive today than reactive. Even today in what you're going to be doing. This is life, guys. Classroom management is life management, actually. So you want to be more proactive today than reactive today. I was already proactive this morning because at our table at our house, before the 3 kids got up, there was a costume picture of a raccoon because Lindsay's going to be a raccoon, except now but she has a werewolf mask. But the raccoon costume looked like a werewolf with a striped tail. But anyway, that's what she's going to be. So this huge big picture of this raccoon, the packaging, it was like that cardboard, but it was a picture. What did I do before they got up? I hid that picture. Because I knew if she went to the breakfast table and she saw that picture, that's all she would have done all morning is think about what she's going to be wearing that night. So it's sort of like just, and then I was proactive in that. So I saved maybe 5 minutes of the whole thing. But when you anticipate, and that's just a very, very simplistic example of being proactive and think about that. When you go into are you going into your classroom today? Mm-hmm. Okay, so one way, you're going in, let's say, math, right? Saying that, I'm so smart. Yeah. But there may be something that maybe when you walk in, it's right between classes, and you just see something that needs to be done. Just go ahead and do it. Bam it, and get that done, and not even say anything, just to do it so that it doesn't cause trouble the next classroom period. I don't know what that would be in math. Maybe I don't know, whatever. But think about ways that you can be proactive today versus reactive, because reactive stuff gets you into big time trouble. Okay, so these are just some ideas. The discipline, those things teachers do to help students behave acceptably in school. And I don't like really anything else on this PowerPoint except for these three things right here. And I promise you, you're going to have these three things on the test. So you might as well just learn them right now. Okay? It's three facets of classroom discipline. Okay? The preventative discipline, the supportive discipline, and the corrective discipline. Now, think about what each of these three mean. Preventive discipline would fall under the word proactive. Okay? Would fall under the word proactive. Corrective discipline is reactive. Now, think about this one in the middle. It's supportive. So you've got preventative, which is being proactive, okay? Leaning much more into the management piece. And then you've got corrective, which is much more into the consequences deal, okay? Where you correct behavior. But then in the middle of those, sort of like in the middle of the sandwich, you have this whole thing about supportive discipline. What do you all think about that? Talk at your tables for like 30 seconds. What do you think, and don't Google supportive discipline, okay? Just I want what's up here in your brain. What do you think that supportive discipline is? Talk about that for 30 seconds, please. Okay, somebody, what do y'all think? What's supportive? What's the word support mean?
Just like build up and help.
Okay, you're going to build up and help.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me just in your brains think of two visuals here. If something is to build up, you can build up with kids bridges or walls. Another word for walls could be barriers. I would throw out the idea here that if preventive stuff is on one side of a canyon or a chasm and reactive or corrective is on the other, the support that gets you to the one to the other is what you build. It's your framework. It is your way to get kids. It's your procedures. Okay? It's all those things that you need. It's the support system. Have you ever heard somebody say, oh yeah, well that kid doesn't have a very good support system at home? What's that? Well, what is that support system? A parent who loves them, a parent who makes sure that their backpack is emptied, a parent that makes sure they sign their agenda book, a parent that makes sure that they practice their violin an hour every night, a parent that, what are all the different things that support? How do I support? Right now, how are you supporting your teacher when you are in your 401 placement that's going to become the first half of your student teaching placement? How does she or he support you? How are you supporting kids? Do some kids need more support than others? See, I would almost say no. And here's why. Some kids are so self-sufficient. Does that mean they don't need you? Sometimes they need you maybe more. Because maybe they're that camouflage kid that just goes with the flow. But still, they need you. They need to say, Hannah, That is awesome. I love that. You did such a good job today. Excellent work. Hey, and by the way, would you do, and you just make sure by the end of the day, and you can't do this, but mentally you can. I want to make sure that I connect with every kid every day. You know, that is so. It's just not all about Shay every day. But there's some kids in your classroom that think it is all about them every day. Do you have kids like that in your rooms? It's like they just almost literally are screaming every time to you, maybe not verbally screaming, but it's like, yes, pay attention to me, pay attention to me, pay attention to me, pay attention to me, pay attention to me. And you just want to, you're just exhausted by the end of the day with that one kid. And you swear, as I've said before, you'll never name any of your kids that you have that name. Because all you'll see when you close your eyes is that face. Okay, and if it's John, John's not on my list. I don't care if it is my dad's name. It's not going to be John because of that kid I had when I student taught or whatever with that. Okay, so the whole idea of support, it to me is the bridge that connects with the proactive. And sometimes you do have to get, but remember what we said, the more proactive you are, the less reactive you have to be. Now, you've got to have it in place. You've got to have your corrective discipline in place. That's why when you go get your code of conduct at the district level, like this one I picked up in Fayette County the other day, that's why you need a book like this. Because legally, you have to support yourself and protect yourself. And legally, you've got to have the documentation. Who said the D word? I think it was back here. You know, all that stuff. You got to have that stuff in place. All right? But the more you teach the procedures, the more you build relationships, the more you do those things, you know, I know you get tired of hearing me say that, guys, but I'm sorry. It's so critically important to all of that. Now, let's talk about management. Management is that, but is okay. Classroom management is the proactive piece, but it's also the nitty-gritty stuff. It's the that just makes a classroom a pleasant place to be. Organization is the most important thing on this, and it has to be organized. Well, you got to organize students. How did I organize you guys last week? Oh, you didn't like that at all. I organized you by the alphabet, okay? But you got to organize yourself. Organization is important. Then I got to organize the space. I used to, but I didn't do it this year. Sometimes I would just come in here and just tear up this classroom. Just literally tear it up. Stack the tables up, put the chairs away, upset the apple cart, and then I would say, sometimes you're going to walk into your first classroom and this is what you're going to find. Or walking into the gym and you open up the equipment room, Andrew, and it's like, it looks like Dick's Sporting Goods threw up. You know, it's just totally messed up in what you're doing. So you've got to have organized space in what you do. And you know, I could just go down through all these, and we'll talk about this a little bit, but as we go through what do you do those first days of school. But the key here with management is you've got to think in your brain, how am I going to organize myself, my kids, the physical stuff in the room on a daily basis. Don't tell me the number. But if you were going to rank on a continuum of 0 being just the most messiest person in the world to 10 being the most organized person in the world. We talked about this just a little bit, but I want you to think about your teacher that is your 401 placement. Where does he or she fall on that continuum? Is she sort of or is he sort of a good match for you as far as how you're organized? Or does it just drive you nuts? And you constantly are going around just tidying up little places in the classroom, or watching how they do certain things. Or are they going around tidying up your area? Hope not. But those are the things that you need to think about as far as organization and how you want to do what you need to do. Then the last thing is this pot of gold. And I just want to just leave it as that. What does the pot of gold represent as far as classroom management is concerned? Just talk to me a little bit. That visual symbol of a pot of gold, what's that mean? Don't mean anything? Ah, I like that, Allie. That each one of these little pieces of gold, these nuggets, represent everything that you treasure to be as a teacher and a manager in your classroom. I like that a lot. Good job. Thinking. Everybody likes alleys? Oh, yeah, we love alleys. Okay, good. I got it. But sorts of different things that you could sort of play off of that, but we're not going to go down that road right now because we're going to go on to the next thing. All right. So, the big takeaways from that PowerPoint to review would be this. One, the three facets. What were they? Preventative, supportive, corrective. Remember those, the three facets of good management and discipline. Okay, and then the other thing that I would say would be something that you could take away from that, and I apologize. I really do have my desktop organized more than I do. Here I am preaching organization, and you have to look at that and get sick. But there's one thing that I want to just share with you very quickly. Here, let me just unplug it, because I want to use this up here for a minute. I want you all to remember something, because this goes to the whole idea of the more proactive you are, the less reactive you have to be. And I may have shown you all this in methods, those of you that are elementary in here, but I think it bears repeating and talking about, especially with the whole control thing, okay? All right, pyramid, right? All right, so this would be your typical group of kids and how you go about and how they react and how much proactive and reactive and the whole piece. Just, it basically is the demographics of a classroom. Now, you tell me if I'm wrong with your classroom that you're in right now. So everybody just sort of get in your head a classroom. If you're middle school, high school, or P12, just think of a class. Don't like think of all 4 classes or all 25 classes that you have. But just think of one. In every class, you're going to have a group down here at the base of the pyramid that's probably about 30% to 35% of the students, okay? And these kids are your TPs. A TP, this will not be on the test. I like that. Teacher pleasers, okay? Same thing. Do you all have kids in your classes that like they will do? You know, it's like, oh, can I wipe your nose for you? You know, they'll do anything to help out in that classroom. I don't care if you've got school kids. There are still teacher pleasers in high school. Okay, but they are a little bit cooler about it than first graders. Okay, with that, so you got these teacher pleasers. Here's the deal: you never would even have to explain to them procedures, because they're going to watch you and listen to you, and they're going to pick it up, and you're not going to have to do anything with them. They're just doing it. Okay? Now, you still, as a teacher, you don't let them go out to recess, or you don't let them go out and get on their phones. I was out in New Mexico this weekend Actually, yesterday at this time, I was sitting in El Paso patiently waiting for fog to lift in Houston. And then we get off our plane. You'll be so proud of me. Maybe not. But we get off our plane in Houston, and we looked at our flight to Louisville, and it said boarding. We got off at gate 2. Guess what gate we had to get to? 46. Yeah. We were running. That would have been a video to watch, right? So like we were like, and I got a little bit ahead of my wife, and she was like, okay, I'm coming. I said, I'm going to go. And every time I saw a southwest gate, I said, you know, hey, call 46 and tell them not to, we're coming. So it's like we were running through the Houston airport and trying to get to where we needed to be. But when we got there, then we just sort of sat on the plane because they also promised us they would get our luggage, so it took a little time. So I said, gosh, we could have stopped and got a burger or something. We had so much time. But it's that whole idea, you know, we were in this realm of we wanted to please and to get to where we needed to be. So it's just all those things that you have these expectations in your brain that you think the day's going to go, and then, you know, you get curveballs along the way. Teacher pleasers, they're right there with you the whole time. They'll do. If there's a curveball, they'll just curve right with you. And you don't have to worry about it. And you don't have to teach them anything. There's no consequences. You could throw this book and burn it. Because you're never going to need it with these kids. My grandson, who I'm connecting a dot from what I started talking about, I was saying, hey, Zach, because we got him his Christmas because we're not going to see him at Christmas. And I said, where do you want to go? Well, you can guess, Best Buy. And I said, what would you like? He said, I want these headphones, these earbuds. Well, I've seen enough high schoolers with earbuds hanging out their ears to know that that's probably, what am I doing? Setting them up to whatever, but, you know, grandpa. These fairly expensive earbuds. I don't know what brand they were. It's like what said, this is what all the kids are listening. This is what all the kids have. And so I started asking him on the way home. I said, hey, what's the deal with, can you wear those in class? He says, oh, yeah, that's fine. No problem. He said, the only time that I turn them off is when the teacher's, you know, like lecturing. And so I said, how about cell phones? Oh, we're allowed to have our cell phones anytime. Really? Yeah, we can do anything we want with that. And I'm like, I'm not hearing a whole lot of procedures there. You know, I'm not hearing a whole lot of expectations in those classes. And I don't know. So I'm not going to rank my son as a teacher, my grandson as a teacher pleaser, because I don't think he is. Because he was telling us some stories. And I would not say he's a teacher pleaser. But he's not up at the top of the pyramid either, thank the good Lord. Okay, so this next group, well, they're probably about 25 to 30% more. These kids, hang on, I don't want that yet. Sorry. These are the one and dones, okay? Now, what does that mean to in this light? It means that once you teach them the procedure and they know the consequences, they may try this little bit one time, but after that they're done and they're right with the same ranks as teacher pleasers. You know those kinds of kids? You know, you tell them they're going to try it just to make sure you're going to do what you're going to do. They're like the testers, and then they're good. Okay? Then you've got this next group up here, maybe about 10 to 15%, and they are the multiples. They've got to do over, and they'll correct, and then they'll get back on track maybe for a week, and then they'll rear their ugly heads again and try ya. So these are the multiples, or we could also say the RDs. I'm sorry, not RDs. I meant ROs. Repeat offenders is what I'm getting at here. Okay? They're the repeat offenders. Multiple times. But they're still manageable, okay? They're still manageable kids. And then you math people in here add up these percents, because I'm maybe about 5 to 10% is these are the consequences. They're not only multiple offenders, but usually the multiple offenders, once you give them their little step clip or warning or whatever, they get back in line. But these guys push to where you've actually got to do the consequences. And this whole group here, this whole area, guys, management systems, they work for these kids. Okay? They totally work for these kids. From the teacher pleasers, even to these ones who push you to consequences, once you do the consequence, they're pretty much back in line for a while. They're not rogue. Okay? Now, this class, Harry Wong, just about any system of management that you read, okay, it fits this. Whether it's Champs, whether it's Ron Clark, whether it's whoever, Glasser, you name it, okay, it works. What doesn't work, though, there's always the red zone. Nothing works with these kids. Do any of you have a kid right now in your classroom that is just totally rogue? That you really nothing just works with this kid. Almost every day you're trying to figure out something else to come up with to help and support this kid. These are the kind of kids that make teachers want to quit teaching. And if you don't have a supportive principal, and if you don't have a supportive group of teachers around you to help work with these kids, you're going to drown. And I'm not telling you that to scare you, but does anybody have a kid like this in their classroom right now? You have one? No names. What makes him that way, or her?
He just won't listen. Like, he's rolling on the ground, he's crawling under the tables.
What grade?
First grade. He
First.
looks at you and says, I don't care, I'm not doing that. Like, he just, no matter what, he could be on red all day and not care.
Okay. So when you say red all day, for you middle school and secondary and P12 people in elementary, a lot of teachers do this clipping up and down system of red is the worst color and purple's heaven at the top, or blue or pink or whatever. Some of them are different colors at the top, but red is usually the one that's like, okay, you know where you're going somewhere with that. Yeah, because have any of you at middle schools and high schools, do you guys run into any of this? Yeah, Tenson?
During, I think it was 2 weeks ago, one of my students, she was doing Kahoot. That was like the first time I've ever seen Kahoot being done in a choir setting. But then afterwards, she had a hard time transitioning back to maintaining the focus of our students. So our kids were eating in class, if we're not supposed to do, because we're singing. And they were taking out their phones. And one student in particular, she was just not like having it that day. And so our teacher was like, put that food away. She said, what food? As she munches on her food. And then she's like, put that food away. You're not supposed to have food in class. And then she kept arguing. And then legit, like 12 mini like white powdered donuts fell on the ground. And like there was silence. And I don't know what's scarier, like if the teacher doesn't say anything, or if the teacher says something, but she didn't say anything, and we just stared at those donuts. Yeah.
So what did your teacher do to that kid? Nothing.
Really, yeah, and so, yeah, the student, I guess, picked them up and threw them.
All right. So, and I'm not saying that was a bad thing your teacher did. Okay, I'm not in judgment. I don't live her life with her kids. But you got to think about the message that you're sending if you don't do anything. And you have to choose when you're going to push on a kid to the point where you deliver a consequence. Now, what we don't know for sure is maybe that teacher went back to that kid later so it wasn't a big deal for in front of the whole choir and, you know, had a back to Jesus meeting with him kind of a deal, okay? You can't call it that in public school, but it's what it is. If you've ever had a back to Jesus meeting with somebody, you know what I'm talking about. We're going to get the thunders out, and we're going to lead you to the Lord whether you like it or not, you know, kind of a thing. Have you ever heard evangelists like that, or somebody like, I remember this one guy, gosh, he would get people at the altar and just like beat you to death, or like beating you on your back. Yes, you will be saved. You will be saved. Lord, help this sinner, you know. It's just, do we beat people to heaven? I'm not sure we do. I don't know if Jesus ever did that or not. I know he didn't do that. He loved people into relationship. You don't beat people. There's something to be said there for teachers to do that. Okay, anybody else? Just one more, just real quick. Anybody else? Somebody that is like one of these rogue kids at the top for you? Yeah. You have a rogue kid?
Yeah, in first grade too. It's her second year in the classroom, in the same classroom.
Oh, really? So they repeated first grade?
In the same classroom too.
In the same classroom?
Yeah, so she knows all the procedures and everything really well, and she tests the limit. But her support system at home has fallen in the past year. But she's really, like, she doesn't care if her color gets changed. She doesn't care anything. She tells us, like, it doesn't matter at home. Like, nothing will happen.
Because there's not the consequences there. So what are the consequences at school for red for her?
She gets a call home, but I think if it keeps going on, she's going to be referred
Okay.
for behavior.
For behavioral disorder?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. And it's sad because it's typically the younger kids like kindergarten and first grade, guys, it's usually not the kid's fault. It's either home or something that's going on that kid needs help and support. Now, by the time they get in high school, I think they have a little bit more of ownership of their behavior and stuff, and I think they could control it. Let's hope. But, you know, then we run into cases like we do, and we hear these crazy things. Where was it? Just yesterday, they found what county was it? Anyway, they were doing a drug search, and they found this kid had a gun at school. It was unloaded, but now I can't remember. It was in Kentucky. I can't remember the county. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. But anyway, it was. But then Anderson County, what was that, 3 weeks ago, where they foiled that whole plot. That guy was going to go back and who knows what he was going to do. So it's scary. It's scary stuff to do all those types of things. Okay, so I want you to think about this whole idea of your classroom. Now, would anybody disagree with me that in your 401 placement right now, your percentages may be off a little bit, but is that true of your kids? Anybody disagree with me on that? Do you have that gradient of kid in your classroom? Let me tell you a little secret. Principal, I got teachers on that same pyramid. You always have this rogue teacher. So someday when you guys are principals, you're going to have a rogue teacher you're going to have to deal with too. And what's scary is that rogue teacher is teaching kids. Yeah, it's pretty. I'm not sure I believe in tenure. And you can disagree with me on that. We're not going to talk about that right now, but I just not sure tenure is a good thing. It's a security blanket that I don't think you should have a security blanket in. Okay. Didn't mean to get off on. Here's remember that, guys, and anybody. Hey, if this ever changes for anybody, and if this isn't correct, come talk to me, okay, and say, hey, Prof. Crook, you need to change that, because yeah, I think it's pretty true. At least it's been in my 44 years of being around schools. Okay, so next thing I want to do is this. One of the assignments that you have coming pretty quickly is the teacher interview assignment. Okay, so this is what I want to do. I want all the elementary people to come up around this table. When I say go, okay, see here I am, transition, right? I've got to manage transition. Okay, so when I say go, I want all the elementary people to come up to this, around this table. I want all my high school, middle school people to come up around this table, and then I want all my P12 people to go back there. Okay? So move. Go. You need to at least take paper, pencil. Okay? We're not going to stay here for maybe about 10 or 15 minutes. Oh, Jesse says we're going to break after this. Okay? So whatever Mr. Jesse says, we do today. Okay, elementary people, you all going to fit? You guys all going to fit around here? I think you will.
4 of us? Cool beans. Today,
Yeah, because James isn't here. All right. I'll come around to each of you, but just to get you started, I want you to come up with 9 questions. 9 questions that you would ask your teacher about their management system. Now, let me say this before you start. Your first person that you would think of to do this with would probably be your P12 faculty that you're with for 401. If you are not real excited and you feel like you know that person and the person's not maybe a real strong classroom management person, I'm fine if you find somebody else. Like if you've heard, like you're at high school, right? Yes. If you hear, hey, this person down the hall, boy, you talk about, word gets out. There's reputation. Go interview him or her, because you know what yours is. But if you just want to interview yours, I'm good with that too. But this is teacher level. So the questions you're designing would be questions that are generic enough that it's going to fit, because all the P12 people back there are going to ask the same questions. All the middle school, secondary people are going to ask the same questions. All the elementary. 9 of them. And then the 10th one, because there's going to be 10 questions, is a your choice question that you can specifically make up. So all I'm interested in is for you all to turn into me. Let's say I'll check on you in 10 minutes. I want a list of at least 9 questions that your group is going to ask for your teacher interview questions, and you can come up with them any way you want to at your tables. Everybody understand what I want you to do? I don't want to give you the questions to ask. I want you to come up with them. You've been in schools enough. You know what to ask. I'm going to look at them, but yeah. All right, we good? All right, go. You can design a question, and if you can always just have the blank and say in relationship to social studies or relationship to math, but make it generic enough, and then there could just be that blank. You would just fill in the content area for what you're doing. Okay. You guys can, for yours, your challenge is this. You guys have much bigger spaces and much higher numbers of kids to work with at some point, especially the music. You're still going to have a classroom of kids to work with, but sometimes if they're going to load down a class, it's going to be the physical education class, especially in middle school and high school.
Well, I know at West, the 6th period has 82 kids. Just because they're like, oh, they're in a gym, we can fit all these kids in there. And they're 2 teachers, so but I mean, still, that's
It's still a lot. Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. Are you with Larry Andrews?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I thought so.
Yeah. And